Her woman was hired as a nanny for a wealthy family. What she discovered about the children's father changed everything. The late afternoon sun tinged the sky with golden hues when Maya's cab pulled up in front of the imposing Carter mansion. The young woman took a deep breath, nervously adjusting the strap of her worn handbag on her shoulder. The driver, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, smiled at her through the rearview mirror. "We're here, young lady. Are you sure this is it?" Maya nodded, unable to contain an eager smile. "Yes, sir. This is it." As she paid for the ride with the last crumpled bills from her wallet, Maya couldn't help comparing the elegant neighborhood with the familiar streets of her old home. The contrast was stark. Here, the sidewalks were impeccable, the gardens meticulously tended, and the air seemed lighter, as if the very atmosphere was filtered for the rich. With trembling legs, Maya walked up to the ornate gate. Before she could ring the bell, a metallic voice sounded from a hidden intercom. "Identification, please." "Maya Johnson," she replied, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "The new nanny." There was a pause, and then the gate opened with a soft hum. Maya crossed the polished stone path, surrounded by a garden that looked like it had come out of a decorating magazine. Fragrant roses, vibrant hibiscus, and perfectly pruned shrubs framed the entrance to the mansion. As she approached the front door, Maya felt the weight of her decision. Just a week ago, she was finishing her shift at the neighborhood diner, dreaming of a better life. Now she was about to enter a world she only knew from movies and gossip magazines. The door opened before she could knock, revealing a middle-aged woman with a warm smile, although her eyes scanned her from top to bottom. "You must be Maya," she said, holding out her hand. "I'm Martha, the housekeeper. Come in, dear. The family is looking forward to meeting you." Maya followed Martha through the entrance hall, her footsteps echoing on the marble floor. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling, reflecting the light of the setting sun through the huge windows. Oil paintings of landscapes and family portraits adorned the walls, silent witnesses to the Carters' wealth and history. "The family is in the dining room," Martha explained, leading Maya down a corridor. "They insisted on a welcome dinner for you." Maya's heart raced. A welcome dinner. She wasn't prepared for that. Her only good outfit, a simple navy blue dress, suddenly seemed inappropriate and out of place. As they entered the dining room, Maya was greeted by a scene that seemed straight out of a movie. A long, elegant table dominated the room, covered in a white linen tablecloth and decorated with elaborate floral arrangements. Fine china and silver cutlery gleamed in the soft light of an ornate chandelier. At the head of the table was Thomas Carter, the patriarch of the family. Tall, with grey hair at his temples and a charismatic smile, he stood up to greet Maya. "Welcome to our home, Maya," he said, his voice deep and confident. "I hope you feel at home with us." Beside him, Isabella Carter, his wife, offered a polite smile, although her blue eyes remained cold and calculating. "It's a pleasure to have you with us, Maya," she said, her tone cordial but distant. The children, Emily aged 8 and Lucas aged 6, watched Maya with barely concealed curiosity. Emily, with long blonde hair and eyes identical to her mother's, seemed to analyze every detail of the new nanny. Lucas, on the other hand, smiled openly, revealing a small window where a baby tooth was missing. "Have a seat, Maya." Thomas gestured to an empty chair. "Join us for dinner." As she settled down, Maya noticed the leering glances of the other servants present. The butler, standing discreetly in a corner, and a young waitress serving the drinks. There was an underlying tension in the air, as if everyone was wondering how this stranger would fit into their carefully ordered world. Dinner passed with a mixture of polite conversation and uncomfortable silences. Thomas dominated most of the conversation, asking Maya about her background and previous experiences. She answered as best she could, aware of the contrast between her humble origins and the luxury that surrounded her. "And how did you get interested in working as a nanny, Maya?" Isabella asked, her voice soft but with a hint of condescension. Maya hesitated for a moment. "I've always loved children," she answered honestly, "and I believe that looking after them is one of the most important responsibilities anyone can have." Thomas nodded approvingly, but Maya couldn't help noticing the look of disdain that quickly passed across Isabella's face. As the meal progressed, Maya began to notice the subtle dynamics of the family. Thomas was clearly the center of attention, his natural charisma dominating the atmosphere. Isabella, although elegant and composed, seemed distant, casting occasional disapproving glances at her husband. The children, for their part, looked uncomfortable under the weight of unspoken expectations. Emily sat upright, her movements carefully controlled, as if she were always under scrutiny. Lucas, younger and less aware of the tension, played distractedly with his food, earning warning looks from his mother. As she watched, Maya felt a wave of empathy for the children. Behind the facade of perfection, she could feel the pressure they faced to be the ideal children of an elite family. Towards the end of dinner, the conversation turned to Maya's duties. "We hope you can help the children with their studies as well as looking after them," Thomas explained. "Emily is preparing for a math competition, and Lucas needs help with his reading." Isabella added, her voice sharp. "And of course, we expect absolute discretion over our family matters." Maya nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and unspoken expectations. "I understand, Mrs. Carter. You can count on my dedication and discretion." After dinner, Martha showed Maya her room on the upper floor. It was bigger than any room she'd ever had, with a comfortable bed, a desk, and a window overlooking the back garden. "Here you are, dear," Martha said, her tone softer now that they were away from the family's eyes. "I hope you find everything to your liking." Alone at last, Maya sat on the edge of the bed, letting out a long, shaky sigh. The room was beautiful, but she felt strangely out of place, as if she were playing a part in a play she wasn't prepared for. As she unpacked her modest suitcase, Maya could hear the muffled voices of the children downstairs. Occasional laughter was interrupted by whispered warnings. "Shh, not so loud," reminding her of the constant pressure under which they lived. Maya approached the window, watching the night sky dotted with stars. She thought about her family, her old neighborhood, the life she had left behind in search of something better. Had she made the right choice? With a determined sigh, Maya squared her shoulders. She was here now, and she would make the best of it. Maybe somehow she could make a difference in these children's lives, bringing a little joy and normality into their world of expectations and appearances. As she prepared for bed, Maya made a silent promise to herself and the children in her care. She would be more than just a nanny. She would be a friend, a confidant, and, if necessary, a protector. What Maya didn't know was that this promise would lead her to discoveries that would test her courage, her integrity, and her very definition of family. But for now, on her first day at the Carter mansion, she fell asleep with hope in her heart and determination in her mind, ready to face the challenges that the dawn would bring. The soft sound of children's laughter woke Maya the next morning. For a moment she was disoriented, the luxury of the room conflicting with her memories of a more modest life. Then the reality of her new position came back full force, and she got up quickly, eager to start her first full day as the Carter family's nanny. After dressing carefully, opting for a simple white blouse and black pants, an attempt to look professional without attracting too much attention, Maya went downstairs, following the sound of the children's voices. She found them in the kitchen where Martha was preparing breakfast. "Good morning, Maya," Lucas exclaimed, his face lighting up at the sight of her. Emily, more reserved, offered a shy smile. "Good morning, children," Maya replied, feeling instantly lighter in the face of Lucas's enthusiasm. "Did you sleep well, Emily?" The girl nodded, her blue eyes studying Maya with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Yes, thank you. Are you taking us to the park today?" Maya looked at Martha, who nodded in confirmation. "Yes, that's the plan. Let's have a fun day together." While the children ate breakfast, Maya observed the family dynamic. Thomas rushed in, kissing the children quickly before grabbing a cup of coffee to go. Isabella appeared soon after, impeccably dressed, but with dark circles carefully disguised under a layer of makeup. "Thomas," Isabella called out, her voice tense, "you promised you'd spend more time with the children this week." Thomas sighed, checking his watch. "I know, dear, but an important meeting has come up. I promised to make up for it at the weekend." The look of disappointment on the children's faces didn't go unnoticed by Maya. She felt a twinge of sympathy, remembering her own experiences with an absent father. After breakfast, Maya took the children to the nearby park. It was a sunny day, and the park was full of other nannies and children from the wealthy neighborhood. While Lucas happily ran to the swings, Emily hesitated, holding a book tightly against her chest. "Don't you want to play, Emily?" Maya asked gently. Emily bit her lip, looking around nervously. "What if I get dirty? Mom doesn't like it when my clothes get dirty." Maya's heart squeezed. "You know what? Sometimes having fun is more important than staying clean. How about we go on the slide together? I promise your mum won't be mad." After a moment's hesitation, Emily smiled and agreed. Maya watched happily as the girl gradually loosened up, laughing and playing with her brother. As the children played, Maya noticed Thomas walking through the park, talking quietly on the phone. Curious, she approached discreetly, picking up fragments of the conversation. "No, we can't let this come out," Thomas whispered urgently. "Find a way to solve the problem. Use whatever money is necessary, but keep my name out of it." Maya pretended to be engrossed in a book, her heart racing. Thomas's tone was different from the charismatic businessman she had met the night before. There was a hardness, a calculating coldness that made her uneasy. Suddenly, Thomas noticed her presence and ended the call abruptly. "Maya, I didn't expect to see you here." "Mr. Carter," she replied, trying to keep her voice calm. "I brought the children to enjoy the beautiful day." Thomas smiled, but the gesture didn't reach his eyes. "Good, good. Well, I have to get back to the office. Take good care of them." As he walked away, Maya couldn't help feeling that she had witnessed something she shouldn't have. She shook her head, deciding to focus on the children. After all, everyone had the right to privacy, didn't they? Back at the mansion, Maya helped the children with their homework. Emily showed an impressive talent for math, solving complex problems with ease. Lucas, on the other hand, struggled with reading, getting frustrated quickly. "It's okay, Lucas," Maya encouraged him. "Let's try a different way." She turned the reading into a game using funny voices for different characters. Soon the boy was laughing and participating enthusiastically. While tidying up the children's room later, Maya found a small diary hidden under Emily's mattress. Hesitantly, she opened it, justifying to herself that she needed to get to know the children better in order to look after them properly. The pages revealed Emily's fears and insecurities, entries about the pressure to be perfect, the fear of disappointing her parents, anxiety about competitions and grades. Maya felt her heart squeeze as she read the girl's words. "Sometimes I wanted to be like the other kids. Laugh out loud, get my clothes dirty, not worry so much. But what if I disappoint mommy and daddy? What if I'm not good enough?" Maya closed the diary, feeling guilty for invading Emily's privacy, but also determined to help the girl find a balance between her parents' expectations and her own happiness. That evening, over dinner, Maya observed the family with new eyes. The conversation revolved around the day's achievements: Emily's perfect grades, Thomas's successful business. Lucas remained silent, playing with his food. "Lucas," Isabella said, her voice sharp, "stop playing with your food and sit up straight." The boy cringed and Maya felt a wave of protection. "Lucas made great progress in his reading today," she interjected softly. "He's trying very hard." Isabella looked surprised, but Thomas smiled. "Is that right, champ? That's great." Lucas's face lit up at his father's praise, and Maya felt a small victory. Later, as the children were getting ready for bed, Maya found them whispering excitedly. "What are you up to?" she asked, smiling. Emily hesitated, but Lucas said, "We're planning a secret adventure, just like in the books we read." Maya laughed. "A secret adventure, huh? Well, every good adventure needs a good rest first. How about you sleep now and tell me more about this plan tomorrow?" As she tucked the children in, Maya couldn't help thinking about all the revelations of the day. Thomas's secrets, the pressure on Emily, Lucas's silent struggle. There was a lot more going on in this family than it seemed at first glance. In her room, Maya sat on her bed, reflecting on everything she had discovered. Part of her wanted to ignore the signs of trouble, to focus solely on looking after the children. But another part, the part that had always fought for justice, couldn't stop worrying. Looking out of the window at the starry sky, Maya made a silent promise. She would do her best to protect Emily and Lucas, to give them the happy, carefree childhood they deserved. And what about Thomas's secrets? Well, she would keep her eyes and ears open. After all, the children were her priority, and she would do anything to ensure their well-being. With this resolution in mind, Maya fell asleep, unaware that the following days would bring even greater challenges and choices that would test her integrity and courage like never before. The weeks passed, and Maya found her rhythm at the Carter mansion. Mornings were filled with rushed breakfasts and school preparations, afternoons with homework and extracurricular activities, and evenings with formal dinners that felt more like a performance than a family meal. In the midst of the routine, Maya strove to create moments of joy and normality for Emily and Lucas. She turned study sessions into fun games, made up fantastic bedtime stories, and whenever possible, took them outdoors to play, away from critical eyes and stifling expectations. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Maya persuaded the children to have a picnic in the back garden. Emily, initially reluctant to sit on the grass, soon found herself laughing as she tried to make flower crowns with Maya. "Do you think Mum will like it if I give her a crown?" Emily asked, her eyes shining with hope. Maya smiled gently. "I'm sure she'll love it, Emily. It's a gift made with love." Meanwhile, Lucas was running around the garden, chasing butterflies and laughing wildly. It was a rare and precious sound, Maya realized, very different from the quiet, anxious boy she had met on the first day. Suddenly, a high-pitched scream cut through the air. Maya turned quickly to see Lucas stumble and fall, rolling towards a bed of thorny roses. Without hesitation, Maya ran, her heart racing. She reached Lucas at the last second, pulling him into her arms before he hit the thorns. The boy was crying, more from fright than pain, and Maya hugged him tightly, whispering words of comfort. "It's all right, Lucas, I've got you, you're safe." It was at that moment that Thomas appeared, attracted by the noise. His normally composed face was pale with worry. "What happened?" he demanded, his voice tense. Maya explained quickly, still holding Lucas. To her surprise, instead of scolding his son for being careless, or Maya for not being attentive enough, Thomas knelt down beside them, his eyes filled with an emotion Maya had never seen before. Genuine fear. "Lucas, son, are you all right?" Thomas asked softly, running his hand through the boy's hair. Lucas sniffled and nodded, still clinging to Maya. "Maya saved me, Dad." Thomas looked at Maya, gratitude evident in his eyes. "Thank you," he said simply, but the weight of that single word was immense. That night, after the children had gone to bed, Thomas asked to speak to Maya in her office. The room was imposing, with floor-to-ceiling bookcases and a heavy mahogany desk. Maya sat down, nervously remembering the suspicious conversation she had overheard in the park. "Maya," Thomas began, his voice softer than usual, "I wanted to thank you again for what you did today. I realized that, well, that perhaps I haven't been as present as I should have been for my children." Maya was surprised by the vulnerability in his voice. "Mr. Carter, the children love you, they just want to spend more time with you." Thomas sighed, running his hand over his tired face. "You know, Maya, when you grow up in a family like mine, there are certain expectations. Success, perfection, keeping up appearances at all costs. I think I ended up putting the same weight on Emily and Lucas without realizing it." Maya felt a wave of empathy. Despite all her suspicions, in that moment she saw Thomas not as the powerful businessman, but as a father struggling with his own insecurities. "It's never too late to change, Mr. Carter," she said gently. "Children just want your love and attention." Thomas looked at her with a mixture of gratitude and something that seemed almost, "You have a gift, Maya. In just a few weeks, you've managed to connect with them in a way that I never could." Encouraged by his openness, Maya decided to take a chance. "You know, Mr. Carter, sometimes children feel a lot of pressure to be perfect. Maybe they need to know that it's okay to make mistakes, to be a child." To his surprise, Thomas didn't take offense. He was silent for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You're right, Maya. I'll try to do better." Over the next few days, Maya noticed a subtle but significant change. Thomas started coming home earlier, spending time with the children before dinner. He listened patiently as Lucas read aloud, making mistakes but not giving up. He praised Emily's drawings, not for their perfection, but for their creativity. Isabella, on the other hand, seemed disconcerted by the change. Maya caught her several times, observing the new dynamic with a mixture of confusion and something that seemed almost jealousy. One evening, while Maya was helping Emily with her math homework, the girl suddenly dropped her pencil and looked at her with tear-filled eyes. "Maya," she whispered, "do you think I'm smart?" Surprised by the question, Maya knelt down beside her. "Of course you do, Emily. You're brilliant. Why do you ask that?" Emily sniffled, fighting back tears. "It's just, sometimes I feel like I'll never be good enough. Mom always says I have to be the best, but what if I can't?" Maya's heart broke. She hugged Emily tightly, feeling the girl tremble in her arms. "Oh, Emily, you don't have to be the best at everything. You just need to be yourself, and that's more than enough." At that moment, Maya realized how deeply she had connected with the children. It wasn't just a job for her. Emily and Lucas had become part of her life, her heart. Days turned into weeks, and Maya found herself more and more involved in the Carter family's life. She was there for the joyful moments, like when Lucas finally read a whole book by himself, his face glowing with pride. And she was there for the difficult moments, like when Emily had a panic attack before a math competition, and Maya calmed her down with gentle words and breathing exercises. Thomas, true to his word, was making a visible effort to be more present. He began to dine regularly with the family, taking a genuine interest in the children's daily lives. Maya noticed how Lucas's eyes lit up every time his father asked to see his drawings, or how Emily sat up a little straighter when Thomas praised her progress at school. However, it wasn't all flowers. Maya still picked up fragments of tense conversations between Thomas and Isabella, urgent whispers about business and reputation. And sometimes, when Thomas thought no one was looking, she saw a shadow pass across his face, a deep concern that he quickly masked with a smile. One afternoon, while the children were playing in the garden, Maya found Thomas alone in the library, looking out of the window with a distant expression. "Mr. Carter," she called softly, "is everything all right?" Thomas turned around, surprised. For a moment, Maya saw a vulnerability in his eyes that he usually kept well hidden. "Maya," he said, his voice tired, "sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing, if all the choices I've made, well, if they've been worth it." Maya hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Part of her wanted to comfort this man who was clearly struggling with something. Another part reminded her of the suspicious conversations, the secrets she knew he was keeping. "Mr. Carter," she began carefully, "I can't judge your choices or your past, but what I see now is a father who is trying. And for Emily and Lucas, that means the world." Thomas looked at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Thank you, Maya, for everything you've done for our family." As she walked away, Maya felt a conflict growing inside her. She had come to this job in search of a better life, but now she found herself in the middle of something much bigger. The children trusted her. Thomas was opening up to her, and somewhere, hidden in the shadows, there were secrets that threatened to destroy it all. Maya knew she was walking a fine line. The closer she became to the family, the harder it would be to maintain her objectivity if, or when, the truth came out. But looking out into the garden, watching Emily and Lucas laugh nonchalantly, she knew she couldn't just walk away. She had made a silent promise to protect these children, to give them the love and stability they deserved. And Maya was determined to keep that promise, no matter the cost. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the garden, Maya observed the scene before her. Thomas joining the children, Isabella watching from the balcony with an indecipherable expression. It was a picture of a perfect family, but Maya knew that beneath the surface powerful currents were in motion. What the future held for the Carters and for her was still uncertain. But one thing Maya knew for sure, the bonds she had formed here were real and deep, and as long as she had the strength, She would fight to protect the happiness and innocence she saw shining in Emily and Lucas's eyes. With a determined sigh, Maya joined the family in the garden, ready to face any challenge that tomorrow might bring. Autumn arrived at the Carter mansion, bringing with it a change in the air that went beyond the golden leaves falling in the garden. Maya felt a growing tension, like the calm before a storm. Thomas spent more time locked in his office, his phone conversations increasingly frantic and whispered. Isabella, for her part, alternated between long periods of absence and moments of almost suffocating attention with the children. One particularly cold afternoon, Maya was helping Emily with her science project when Lucas came running into the room, his eyes wide with excitement. "Maya! Emily, come and see. There's a giant squirrel in the garden." Emily rolled her eyes, but Maya saw the opportunity for a welcome break. "Come on, Emily. A bit of fresh air will do us good." The three figures ventured out into the garden, Lucas leading the way with childlike enthusiasm. As they searched for the elusive squirrel, Maya noticed the illuminated window of Thomas's office. His silhouette was visible, gesturing animatedly as he spoke on the phone. Suddenly, Thomas's voice rose, clear enough for Maya to catch fragments of the conversation. "No, you don't understand. If this leaks, we're finished. Use the money in the Cayman Islands account if you have to, but sort it out." Maya froze, her heart racing. The mention of offshore accounts and Thomas's desperate tone confirmed her worst suspicions. Something serious was going on, something that went far beyond simple business stress. "Maya, are you all right?" Emily's worried voice brought her back to reality. Forcing a smile, Maya turned to the children. "I'm fine, sweetheart. I think our squirrel friend has gone. How about we go back inside and make some hot chocolate?" That night, long after the children had gone to bed, Maya couldn't sleep. Thomas's words echoed in her mind, mixing with all the other clues and suspicions she had collected over the last few months. Making an impulsive decision, she quietly left her room. The corridor was dark and silent, the mansion asleep. Heart pounding, Maya made her way to Thomas's office. The door was unlocked, a rare oversight that Maya attributed to Thomas's obvious stress. Stepping inside, she hesitated, guilt fighting against her determination to find out the truth. But Emily's confident face and Lucas's innocent smile sprang to mind, strengthening her resolve. With trembling hands, Maya began to rummage through Thomas's desk. Most of the papers seemed harmless, financial reports, business correspondence. But then, hidden under a pile of documents, she found a folder marked Project Phoenix. Opening it, Maya felt her stomach sink. In front of her was irrefutable evidence of an elaborate financial fraud scheme. False statements, offshore accounts, bribes to government officials, all meticulously documented. "What do you think you're doing?" Thomas's icy voice took her by surprise. Maya turned, the folder still in her hands, to see Thomas standing in the doorway, his face a mask of fury and fear. "Mr. Carter, Maya began, but the words failed her. Thomas crossed the room in strides, snatching the folder from her hands. "Do you have any idea what you're messing with? Do you have any idea of the consequences?" Maya found her voice, indignation overcoming fear. "Consequences? What about the consequences for Emily and Lucas if this comes to light? Have you thought about them?" For a moment, Thomas's mask fell away, revealing a tormented man. "Everything I've done for them. To guarantee their future, to keep them safe." "Security built on lies isn't security, Mr. Carter," Maya retorted, her voice shaking with emotion. "They deserve more than that. They deserve a father who is an example of integrity, not that." Thomas stared at her for a long moment, a visible battle taking place behind his eyes. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and dangerous. "You don't understand, Maya. You can't understand. The world we live in, the world I'm preparing Emily and Lucas for, isn't black and white. Sometimes we have to make difficult choices to protect those we love." Maya felt a shiver run down her spine. "Are you threatening me, Mr. Carter?" Thomas's laugh was cold, humorless. "Threatening? No, Maya. I'm warning you. You're a good person, I can see that. But goodwill and ideals don't pay bills. They don't guarantee futures. What do you think would happen to your family, your community if I fell? How many jobs would be lost? How many lives would be ruined? The implication was clear. Thomas had power, connections. If she spoke out, it wouldn't just be the Carter family that would suffer. Maya felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. She thought of Emily and Lucas, of the hopes and dreams they had shared with her. She thought of her own family, of the sacrifices they had made so that she could have this opportunity. "What do you want from me?" she finally asked, her voice almost a whisper. Thomas sighed, running a hand over his tired face. "I want you to continue being who you are, Maya. A positive presence for my children. But what you saw here tonight, that never happened. Do you understand?" Maya nodded slowly, feeling nauseous. As she turned to leave the office, Thomas called her one last time. "Maya, I really care about my family. Everything I do is for them. I hope one day you'll understand that." Back in her room, Maya sat on the edge of the bed, trembling. The revelations of the night swirled in her mind, mixing with memories of the happy moments she had shared with the children, with the glimpses of vulnerability she had seen in Thomas. She knew she had crossed a line tonight. The knowledge she now possessed was a heavy burden, a secret that threatened to suffocate her. Part of her wanted to run away, to denounce Thomas, to wash her hands of this whole nightmare. But then she thought of Emily, of how the girl was finally starting to believe in herself. She thought of Lucas, how his eyes sparkled when he could read a difficult word. Could she really abandon them? And there was her own family to consider. Thomas's veiled threats were not empty. If she spoke, how many lives would be affected? Would the price of the truth be too high? As the sun began to rise, painting the sky pink, Maya still had no answers. She only knew that the choices she would make in the coming days would shape not only her future, but that of everyone around her. With a deep sigh, she got up to start another day, carrying the weight of secrets she never asked to know. The road ahead was uncertain, full of shadows and moral dilemmas. But one thing Maya knew for sure: she could not, would not abandon the children. No matter the cost, she would find a way to protect them, to give them the future they deserved. As she prepared to wake Emily and Lucas, Maya made a silent promise. She would navigate this minefield of secrets and lies, and somehow find a way to do the right thing. For the sake of the children, for the sake of her own integrity, she had to try. The days that followed Maya's discovery were a precarious balancing act. Every forced smile, every casual conversation with Thomas or Isabella weighed on her conscience. The knowledge of the Carter family's dark secrets was like a slow poison, eating away at her peace of mind. One particularly tense morning, Maya was helping Emily get ready for school when she noticed the unusually quiet girl. "Is everything all right, Emily?" asked Maya, gently brushing the child's long blonde hair. Emily hesitated, her eyes meeting Maya's in the reflection of the mirror. "Maya, do you think secrets are bad?" Maya's heart leapt. "Why do you ask that, dear?" "It's just..." Emily bit her lip, clearly conflicted. "I heard Dad and Mum arguing last night. Dad said something about keeping up appearances and protecting the family. It sounded scary." Maya felt a knot forming in her stomach. The children were more aware than she had imagined. Carefully, she chose her words. "Emily, sometimes adults keep secrets thinking they're protecting the people they love, but it's not always the right thing to do." "Do you keep secrets, Maya?" Emily's eyes were piercing, full of a wisdom beyond her years. Maya felt the weight of her own hypocrisy. I always try to be honest, Emily, but sometimes the truth is complicated." The rest of the morning passed in a blur, with Maya torn between her daily responsibilities and the whirlwind of emotions and doubts in her mind. She knew she couldn't go on like this. Something had to be done. That afternoon, while the children were at school, Maya decided to confront Thomas. She found him in his office, immersed in a pile of documents. "Mr. Carter," she said, closing the door behind her, "we need to talk." Thomas looked up, a shadow of apprehension crossing his face. "Maya, what can I do for you?" I can't do this anymore, Maya said, her voice trembling slightly. I can't keep pretending that everything is fine, that I don't know what I know. Thomas leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing. I thought we'd come to an understanding about that. An understanding? Maya let out a bitter laugh. You mean your veiled threat? Mr. Carter, the children are realizing that something is wrong. They deserve better than this, better than lies and secrets. For a moment, Thomas's mask fell away, revealing the tired, tormented man underneath. You don't understand, Maya. The world isn't black and white. Sometimes we have to make difficult choices to protect those we love. Protect? Maya felt her anger rising. You call that protection? Building their future on a foundation of lies and deceit? What will happen when the truth comes out? And it will, Mr. Carter. Secrets like that don't stay buried forever. Thomas stood up abruptly, coming around the table to face Maya. His voice was low, dangerous. And what do you suggest, Maya? That I throw everything away? That I destroy everything I've built, everything I've done to secure Emily and Lucas's future? I suggest that you do the right thing, Maya retorted, her voice rising. That you be the example your children deserve. For a long moment, they stared at each other, the air heavy with tension. Then, surprising Maya, Thomas collapsed into his chair, his face buried in his hands. You don't understand, he muttered. If I fall, it won't just be me. There are powerful people involved, Maya. People who wouldn't hesitate to hurt my family to protect themselves. Maya felt her anger dissipate, replaced by a complex mixture of pity and frustration. Mr. Carter, Thomas, there must be a way to do the right thing without putting Emily and Lucas in danger. Thomas raised his eyes, and for the first time Maya saw real fear in them. What if there isn't, Maya? What if the only choice is between my integrity and my family's safety? What would you do? The question hung in the air, heavy and impossible. Maya opened her mouth to answer, but was interrupted by the sound of the door opening. Isabella walked in, her eyes narrowing as she saw the scene before her. What's going on here? She asked, her voice cold. Nothing, dear, Thomas replied quickly, pulling himself together. Maya and I were just discussing the children's extracurricular activities. Isabella looked from Thomas to Maya, clearly not convinced. Maya, shouldn't you be preparing the children's lunch? They'll be home from school soon. It was a clear dismissal. Maya nodded stiffly, casting one last meaningful glance at Thomas before leaving. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall, taking a deep breath. The conversation hadn't gone as she'd planned, but it had revealed something important. Thomas wasn't a one-dimensional villain. He was a man caught in a web of his own lies, fighting to protect his family in the only way he knew how. But that didn't make his actions right, and it didn't relieve Maya of the responsibility she felt. Emily's words echoed in her mind. Do you keep secrets, Maya? As she headed for the kitchen, Maya knew she was at a crossroads. She couldn't go on as she was, carrying the weight of these secrets. But neither could she simply denounce Thomas without considering the consequences for Emily and Lucas. Preparing the children's lunch, Maya tried to organize her thoughts. She needed a plan, some way to expose the truth without destroying the family she had come to love. The sound of children's laughter announced the arrival of Emily and Lucas. Maya forced a smile, determined not to let her inner anguish affect the children. How was school today? She asked, putting the sandwiches on the table. As the children chattered about their day, Maya watched them with a lump in her throat. They deserved a bright future, free from the shadows of their father's past. But how could she guarantee this without causing even more harm? That night, lying in her bed, Maya made a decision. She could no longer be a passive bystander. Somehow she would find a way to do the right thing for the Carters, for her own integrity, and for Emily and Lucas's future. With this resolution in mind, Maya finally fell asleep, knowing that the days ahead would be the most challenging of her life. But she was ready to face whatever came, armed with her determination and the love she felt for the children. The great conflict was just beginning, and Maya was at the center of it. But she wouldn't back down. For the sake of everyone involved, she would find a solution. She had to. The days following the tense conversation with Thomas were a whirlwind of emotions and planning for Maya. She knew she couldn't stand still any longer, but every step forward felt like a minefield of possible consequences. One particularly hectic afternoon, while helping Lucas with his homework, Maya noticed Isabella standing in the doorway, watching them with an indecipherable expression. "Maya," Isabella called softly, "can I talk to you for a moment?" Her heart racing, Maya nodded, giving Lucas a reassuring smile before following Isabella out onto the terrace. The crisp early fall air did nothing to calm her nerves. Isabella turned to face her, her blue eyes piercing. "Maya, I'm not blind. I know something is going on, something involving you and Thomas." Maya felt her stomach sink. "Mrs. Carter, No," Isabella interrupted her, holding up a hand. "I don't want to hear excuses or denials. I want the truth. What do you know?" For a moment, Maya considered lying, keeping up the facade that had become second nature to her in recent weeks. But looking into Isabella's eyes, she saw something unexpected. Fear. With a deep sigh, Maya began to speak. She told of the suspicious conversations she had overheard, of the documents she had found, of her confrontation with Thomas. As she spoke, she saw the color leave Isabella's face. "So it's true," Isabella murmured, more to herself than to Maya. "I suspected it, but I didn't want to believe it." "Mrs. Carter," Maya said gently, "did you know?" Isabella laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. "Did you? Perhaps. I suspected, certainly, but it's easier to pretend, isn't it? To pretend that everything is fine, that our perfect world isn't built on lies." Maya felt a wave of compassion for this woman, who had always seemed so cold and distant. "What are we going to do?" Isabella looked at her sharply. "We? Maya, you're the nanny. This isn't your responsibility." "With all due respect, Mrs. Carter," Maya replied, her voice firm. "The moment I discovered the truth, it became my responsibility too. I can't just ignore what I know, not when it affects Emily and Lucas." For a long moment, Isabella was silent, gazing at the garden below. When she finally spoke, her voice was charged with emotion. "You really care about them, don't you?" "More than I can express," Maya answered honestly. Isabella nodded slowly. "Very well. Let's talk to Thomas. Together." Dinner that night was an atmosphere of barely disguised tension. Emily and Lucas exchanged confused glances, clearly sensing that something was wrong, but unable to understand what. After the children were put to bed, Maya followed Isabella into Thomas's office. He looked up, surprised to see the two women entering together. "What is it?" he asked, his voice tense. "No more secrets, Thomas," Isabella said, her voice trembling slightly. "It's time we faced the truth." What followed was an intense and emotionally charged conversation. Thomas, initially defensive, gradually began to open up. He talked about the pressure of maintaining the family empire, about the difficult choices he believed he had to make to protect his legacy. "You don't understand," he argued at one point, his voice breaking. "If I fall, it won't just be me. There are powerful people involved, people who wouldn't hesitate to hurt our family to protect themselves." "And you think lying and cheating is the solution?" Maya asked, unable to contain her frustration. "What will happen when the truth comes out?" "And it will, Mr. Carter. Secrets like that don't stay buried forever." Isabella, who had remained silent for some time, finally spoke. "Thomas, look at us. Look at what we've become. We live in fear, hiding behind false smiles and extravagant parties. This is not the future we wanted for Emily and Lucas." Thomas seemed to wither before her eyes, all the bravado leaving his body. "What do you want me to do?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper. "The right thing," Maya replied simply. The silence that followed was heavy with possibilities and unspoken fears. Finally, Thomas nodded slowly. "You're right," he said, his voice hoarse. I'll fix it. But I need time. I need to do it the right way, to protect the family." Maya and Isabella exchanged glances. It was a start, but they both knew that the road ahead would be difficult. In the days that followed, a subtle change took place at the Carter mansion. Thomas spent more time at home, getting genuinely involved with the children. Isabella, for her part, seemed more relaxed, as if a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Maya watched everything with a mixture of hope and apprehension. She wanted to believe that Thomas would do the right thing, but years of secrets and lies don't disappear overnight. One afternoon, while playing with Emily and Lucas in the garden, Maya heard them laughing in a way she hadn't heard for weeks. It was a pure, innocent sound, free of the tensions that had permeated the house. At that moment, Maya knew that no matter what happened, she had made the right choice. Exposing the truth, no matter how painful, was the only way to a truly happy future for the children. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Maya felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced since discovering the Carters' secrets. The road ahead was still uncertain, full of challenges and possible dangers, but for the first time in weeks, she felt hope. Thomas appeared at the back door, beckoning the children inside. As they passed him, he hugged them tightly, a gesture that made Maya's heart squeeze. His eyes met Maya's, and she saw in them a mixture of gratitude and determination. With a small nod, he turned to follow the children. Maya stayed behind for a moment, breathing in the fresh night air. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new decisions to be made. But for now, in this moment of calm before the storm, she allowed herself to feel pride. Pride for having had the courage to face the truth. Pride for having helped initiate a change that she hoped would lead to a better future for Emily and Lucas. With one last look at the starry sky, Maya turned to enter the house. The confrontation had taken place, but the real battle was just beginning, and she was ready to face it, for the sake of the children she had come to love as her own. The weeks following the confrontation with Thomas were a mixture of cautious hope and growing anxiety. Maya watched the Carter family's every move closely, looking for signs that Thomas was really making good on his promise to make things right. On a sunny Saturday morning, the family gathered for a rare breakfast together. The air was charged with an almost palpable tension, as if everyone sensed that something important was about to happen. Thomas snorted, drawing everyone's attention. "Family," he began, his voice trembling slightly. "There's something important I need to tell you all." Emily and Lucas exchanged confused glances, while Isabella squeezed her husband's hand in silent support. Maya felt her heart racing, knowing that this could be the moment that changed everything. "Over the last few years," Thomas continued, I've made mistakes, serious mistakes. I thought I was protecting our family, our future, but I realized that I was just building a house of cards, ready to collapse at any moment." Emily, always perceptive, frowned. "What kind of mistakes, Dad?" Thomas hesitated, looking at Maya and Isabella for support. Maya nodded encouragingly, and he continued. I've done wrong things in business, darling. Illegal things. I thought it was the only way to maintain our lifestyle, to guarantee your future, but I was wrong." Lucas, with the innocence of his 6 years, asked, "Are you going to jail, Daddy?" The question, so direct and innocent, hit the table like a bomb. Isabella choked back a sob while Thomas closed his eyes, visibly shaken. "I don't know, son," he replied honestly. "But what I do know is that no matter what happens, I'm going to do the right thing now. For you. For our family." Maya watched the children's reactions. Emily, with tears in her eyes, seemed to be processing everything with a maturity beyond her years. Lucas, still confused, clung to his sister's arm in search of comfort. "What's going to happen now?" Emily asked, her voice small and frightened. Isabella took the floor, her voice surprisingly firm. "Now, darling, we're going to face this together as a family. Your father will turn himself into the authorities and cooperate completely. It's going to be difficult, but it's the right way." Maya felt a wave of pride and relief. Finally, the truth was coming out, but her joy was short-lived. The sound of tires screeching and doors slamming outside the house broke the moment. Thomas stood up abruptly, his face pale. "They're here," he muttered. Before anyone could react, the front door opened with a bang. Men in suits entered, followed by uniformed police officers. "Thomas Carter," one of the men announced, "you are under arrest for financial fraud, tax evasion, and corruption." Chaos ensued. Emily and Lucas started crying. Isabella screamed for explanations, and Thomas seemed to have aged 10 years in seconds. Maya acted on instinct. She gathered the children into her arms, whispering words of comfort as she watched the scene unfold. To her surprise, Thomas didn't resist. He turned to his family, tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice breaking, "for everything, but I promise I'll make it right. Somehow." As the officers handcuffed Thomas, Maya noticed a man approaching Isabella with some papers. "Mrs. Carter," he said, "we have a search warrant. We need to search the house." Isabella, pale but composed, nodded. "Do whatever you need to." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Police searched every corner of the mansion, taking boxes of documents and electronic devices. Maya stayed with the children, trying to protect them from the chaos as much as possible. When the dust finally settled, the Carter mansion, once a symbol of opulence and perfection, looked empty and cold. Isabella joined Maya and the children in the living room, her eyes red from crying. "What do we do now, Mom?" Emily asked, her voice small and frightened. Isabella took a deep breath, exchanging a look with Maya before replying, "Now, my love, we start again. Together." Maya felt a tightness in her chest. She knew that her role in the Carters' lives had changed irrevocably. She was no longer just the nanny. She had become an anchor, a pillar of support in the midst of the storm. "Can I stay with you?" she heard herself asking. "To help with whatever you need." The grateful look Isabella gave her was answer enough. In the days that followed, the Carter story dominated the headlines. Business magnate arrested for massive fraud. Carter empire crumbles. Facade of perfection hides years of corruption. Maya did her best to shield the children from media attention, creating a bubble of normality amidst the chaos. A week after Thomas's arrest, Maya found Emily alone in the garden, looking thoughtfully at a wilted rose. "A penny for your thoughts," Maya said softly, taking a seat next to the girl. Emily sighed. "Maya, do you think people can change? That they can fix their mistakes?" Maya thought carefully before answering. "I think so, Emily. It's not easy and it takes time. But if someone really wants to change and works hard at it, it is possible." Emily nodded slowly. "I hope Dad changes, that he'll put things right." "I hope so too, sweetheart," Maya replied, hugging the girl. "And remember, no matter what happens, you'll always have people who love and support you." That night, after putting the children to bed, Maya joined Isabella on the balcony. The night air was fresh, charged with the scent of roses from the garden. "Thank you, Maya," Isabella said softly, "for everything. For having the courage to face the truth. For being here for the children, for all of us." Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. "This family means a lot to me," she replied honestly. "I couldn't abandon them now." Isabella smiled, a tired but genuine smile. "You know, when Thomas hired you, I thought you were just another maid, but you've become so much more. You've become family." The words warmed Maya's heart. She looked out at the starry night, thinking about how her life had changed since she first entered the Carter mansion. She had come in search of a job, a better life for herself, but she found so much more. She found a purpose, a family, and the strength to do the right thing no matter the cost. The future was still uncertain. There would be trials, possible prison time for Thomas, and the long and difficult journey of rebuilding their lives and reputations. But Maya knew that together they would face every challenge. As the gentle wind swayed the trees in the garden, Maya made a silent promise. She would be there for Emily and Lucas, for Isabella, and yes, even for Thomas. Because sometimes family isn't just the one you're born into, but the one you choose. And Maya had chosen the Carters, with all their flaws and challenges. The truth had come out, painful and liberating. And now, in the ashes of the old, a new story was beginning to be written. A story of redemption, of second chances, and of the transformative power of honesty and love. Maya smiled to herself. It wouldn't be easy, but she was ready for the next chapter of this journey, because now she knew with absolute certainty that she had found her place, not as a maid, not as an outsider, but as an integral part of this imperfect and mending family. And so, under the starry sky, a new era began for the Carters, an era of truth, of healing, and above all, of hope. If this story touched your heart, then don't forget to leave a like. Use the super thanks located just below the video to directly support the channel and help create more amazing content. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Now don't miss the next incredible story that's appearing on your screen. I greatly appreciate your support and hope to see you soon. Thank you for watching.